Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 622 days, Ukraine defends itself against the Russian invasion. As expected, the European Commission has recommended that EU states start accession negotiations with Ukraine, but Kyiv must implement further reforms, reports European Pravda. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that Ukraine has implemented more than 90% of the recommendations put forward by the European Commission. She praised Ukraine for implementing reforms despite the full-scale war. Quote, "The main progress has been achieved in constitutional reforms, reform in the field of justice, in the section of the High Council of Justice, in anti-corruption processes, and combating money laundering. There have been important measures to limit the influence of oligarchs on public life, a new media law, and progress regarding national minorities. The remaining reforms are being implemented, and that's good," said the European Commission President. The report by the European Commission recommends that the Council of Europe adopts a negotiating framework after Ukraine has adopted a list of laws on anti-corruption, lobbying, changes to the law on national minorities, and consider the Venice Commission recommendations relating to the laws on the state language, media and education. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky reacted to the European Commission's decision, calling it the right step for the history of Ukraine and the whole of Europe, reports Ukrinform. He added that already in December, Ukraine expects a political decision from the Council of Europe on the start of negotiations. Quote, "Our country must be in the European Union. Ukrainians deserve it, both for their defense of European values and for the fact that even in times of full-scale war, we keep our word and develop state institutions. All the necessary decisions are being adopted," unquote. Later in his evening video address, Zelensky said that Ukraine has already prepared for the European Council's decision on the negotiations in December. He stressed that this is Ukraine's top priority. The head of state instructed the government to implement all the recommendations that the European Commission suggested. "We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This way more people would learn about the podcast and truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine." President Volodymyr Zelensky took part in a Reuters Next event, where he said that Ukraine has a specific plan for regaining its territory next year. However, he did not explain the details, reports Ukrainska Pravda. Asked how much land Ukraine will be able to claim back next year, Zelensky noted that it has not yet finished this year. He also said that counts on the support of Ukraine from American society regardless of who wins the US presidential election in 2024. The head of state refused to directly answer the question of how concerned he was about the possible victory in the US elections of Donald Trump, who repeatedly expressed his anti-Ukrainian position and promised to agree on the end of the war in 24 hours. Zelensky believes that if American society supports, shares the same values and understands the challenges that Ukraine is facing, as well as the outcome and damage of this war, any US president will be keen on providing support to the country. Strategic Communications Coordinator for the White House National Security Council, John Kirby, said that the United States used up almost all of the funds approved by Congress to help Ukraine, reports Voice of America. He specified that the US used more than 90% of the funds for security assistance for Ukraine. Quote, "The Defense Department is down to about $1.1 billion of replenishment money left as we head into the winter time. So as I have said before, the runway is getting shorter, and that's why we need the supplemental request approved in Congress," Kirby added. The official stressed that the US should continue to provide security assistance to Ukraine so that Ukrainian forces can make the most of the time they have left before the weather worsens, which will complicate the advance. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just 2 people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.